The obese one. Throughout my life, I have generally been relatively slender. However, there have been two waves of compulsive eating, one of which continues somewhat to the present day. So in my 20s, I had a vision. And the vision was to give away my work for free as a gift. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to do that. But it made me very uncomfortable. I felt very anxious and panicky. But then I thought I have to overcome that anxiety and panic in order to give my work away as a gift, because I want to be spiritual. I want to be in integrity with this vision. And so I persisted, but I felt anxiety. Now, as I persisted in moving in this direction, it had a number of ripple effects. One of which was my income going down by half. Another was because clients didn't feel touched by the gift. Instead, they just said, oh, that's kind of weird or whatever. What did you pay before, or what should I pay? And in other words, clients were unable to receive the gift. It wasn't really a gift. If anything, it was they had to figure this out. And the way they all figured it out about what they owed me wasn't, whatever. It was half of what I had been making before. And so that felt rotten. And then I moved in with one of these clients, and that, it was sometime during, it was kind of a passive-aggressive relationship, felt uncomfortable, and I one day I didn't want to eat at all. I was fasting, and that was, I think, another thing. And then and then I started overeating sweets. And then I thought that was a bad idea. And then I compulsively ate sweets. And so that started a compulsive eating cycle, primarily of sweets and sugar. And and what I recognize is a certain smallness, a certain smallness, feeling small, not honoring that smallness, not having that small part be honored. And then a synthetic grandiosity, a compensating grandiosity of wanting to eat to kind of fill that void. Because there's a small part saying I'm scared, and nobody's listening to that part because I'm not listening to it. My, quote, vision isn't listening to it. Other people are not listening to it. My clients are not listening to it. And so that part needs something to soothe its anxiety. It needs something to give it a sense of control. And so this occurred for a while, and I found the compulsivity around it somewhat frightening, because I didn't connect with the part that was compulsively eating. I didn't connect with that part, but I felt it. So it felt like a foreign part because I was dissociated from it. Then more recently, in another kind of version of things where Peter Sandhill, a therapist I hired to facilitate my first psychedelic journey, escalated a romantic relationship while I was high to a dissociative level on mushrooms and MDMA, and then reenacted an abandonment dynamic that was part of a very early trauma, blamed me for it, and I ended up losing my community, my sense of rightness, my respect for the Human Awareness Institute, which had recommended Peter Sandhill to me, and they all denied that it had anything to do with them, and in fact even wanted to charge me money to mediate fixing it. It was completely inappropriate. And this just led to intense chronic pain. And the pain was so intense that I couldn't sleep easily, couldn't move easily, couldn't be in my body easily, couldn't work easily. And the question was what to do with all this grief and all this pain. And I tried a whole host of different things, but among them was just eating to a point where that horrible ache in my solar plexus would be pressed out with food so I couldn't feel the void. I mean, this aching void would be physically incapacitated by food pressing out into that void so it would feel full rather than empty. Now, the void was a tremendous deficit in love for some of the smallest infant parts. And I was fixated in being betrayed and how Peter Sandhill needed to love this part, and the Human Awareness Institute needed to love this part, and the community needed to love this part. But the reality was that I could not love this part in a context in which no one else was loving this part, no one else was seeing this part, no one else was responding to this part. And so there's this very, very small, deep feeling of I am completely unloved and unlovable, as evidenced by the fact that no one, myself included, was capable and willing to love this part. And I didn't know how to love it. They didn't know how to love it. Therapists certainly didn't know how to love it. And I just felt, a very high degree of despair and disgust, at this world that knows how to hurt children but doesn't know how to love them. And my parents and family certainly didn't know how to love this part. It's a pretty high level of sociopathic response. And so there's this sense of I'm not wanted, I'm not loved, I'm ashamed, I feel hurt, I feel small, I feel horrible amounts of pain. And there's nothing that can come in to fill that void. But eating felt like it was a coping strategy. Buying a lot of food, eating a lot of food, eating a lot of things that I liked, these were distractions, coping mechanisms. And right now, often I get into a paralysis of some kind where I can't think straight, I can't concentrate, I can't get something done. And the idea is that maybe if I stuff enough food into me, it'll break through that. It's kind of like a stalemate with a lot of spaciousness inside the psyche. I don't want to be here. I feel fuzzy. And I just don't know how to respond. And I'm looking for something to grab onto that feels solid. I could eat. I could do this, but I'm scared of that. I could do this, I could do it, but I could eat. And I see a 5-year-old, eating a lot and trying to mask inner pain. I also see an adolescent negotiating for food in the absence of, a variety of things. Like right now, my neck hurts, my head is foggy, my left eye hurts. I'm nervous, but there's one part of me that wants to eat something. Not that I'm not full and don't feel a certain bloatedness. I think I've put on like 15 pounds or something. But it's like, I don't know if that's going sideways. It's like I'm looking at here, it's foggy, it's gray. I'm looking at something I don't want to fully see and engage, and I can go over here. I can divert attention. And I think there's an element of self-importance that is eclipsing or there's an element of self-importance that is eclipsing or moving through the hurt that you don't love me. There's entitlement and grandiosity, like in ordering lots of food in a restaurant, and I want it like this and I want it like that. And it's as if that perfectionism, that outward everything just so, is kind of stabilizing this very small thing that I'm hurt, I'm not important, I'm not seen, I'm not loved, I'm not there. So I want to be out here being more important to kind of offset this deep hurt. And there's no direct antidote to the deep hurt, because we don't live in a cult where I can say I'm feeling deeply hurt and unvalued. And someone holds me and responds and says, how can I love you in a way that feels good? And we live you, we all deal with our things and move on. Well, that doesn't fill that ache. And then how do I love myself? I want to do something, but I don't know what to do. Should I meditate? Should I draw? Should I watch TV? How do I respond to the sense of how do I respond to this sense of what's next? How do I make this hurt child feel loved? Because if he's loved, he knows he's lovable. If he's not loved by me or anyone else, he knows he's unlovable, because a child takes on the inadequacy of the cult. The child owns the inadequacy of the cult.